know who owns the largest share of CN Rail? The same CN Rail, critical for transporting goods across our country? Bill Gates. Maybe it's nothing. It's probably something. Perhaps it's everything. When our events coordinator approached me with the opportunity to speak here in Stettler, my mind immediately refuged into the recesses of my memory and recalled my time as a child riding your old and famous train. I love trains. The diesel locomotives are one thing, but steam engines, titanic behemoths, like those with Union Pacific, are some of the most beautiful machines ever invented, in my opinion. The steam, the smoke, the coal, the pressure, the torque, all balanced in harmony to power the grandfathers of the Industrial Revolution, pulling countless tons of freight all across the plains, totally enchant and enthrall me. The reason I bring trains to your attention today is because it fits with our economic theme for the evening. The story of our railroad in Canada, here in Canada, is littered with crony capitalism that persists in an even more pronounced corruption today. Canada's inaugural Prime Minister was forced to resign because he financed his campaign, I'm talking about John A. Macdonald, by promising a wealthy investor a contract for constructing the National Railroad. And yet, today, if we capture the adulterous politician in an act of infidelity with business, the news tells us to go our way with the thought, that's politics. Of course, that's a problem. Here's why. As a Canadian, I feel obligated to cherish the game of hockey. And indeed I do. I love it very much. In fact, I am so passionate about the sport that I have sworn the solemn vow never to coach a team, lest I become too passionate, yell too loudly, and perhaps tarnish my public testimony as a Christian. But at present, I am thinking about a problem, a possible problem in hockey. I am not talking about the ideological nonsense spewed during intermissions on TV today. I am talking about officiating. When I watch a game, I wonder if the ref is working for the other team. Never my own, only the other. And so my concern persists. The game has an objective set of regulations and rules that have to be enforced, and the referee cannot, for any reason, exploit a bias for the advantage of one team and the detriment of the other. He has to be neutral. And so if the reffing is neutral and objective, then I'm obligated to say the reffing tonight is good. And if the reffing is corrupted and partisan, favoring one team over my own, I complain that the reffing tonight is typical. But if the referee rules objectively, he's fulfilling his job. If he fails to do so, he's abdicating his responsibility to the suffering of the players, the fans, and the sport. The same is true of government and business. The market is a jungle. The market is a game. The goal is to make as much money as possible. The winner makes as much money as possible, subject to law, of course. And for reasons that we don't have time to discuss today, unfortunately, working to make such a profit is actually exceedingly humane, publicly beneficial, and is a bastion against the socialist apparatus of this new world state. Suppose you own a bake shop. I see a lot of cowboys in here. Suppose one of you guys owns a bake shop. Suppose I own a bake shop. Together we compete to bake the chewiest chocolate chip cookie. And this is a very good thing, because you see, if it was only I in the city or the town who was baking chocolate chip cookies, I might become lazy and cut costs and produce low quality goods. But because we compete, you and I have to be at the top of our game, lest one of us slip, become complacent with our product, produce poor chocolate chip cookies, and then forfeit profits because your customers will come to me or the vice versa. Now, government's job is to ensure, and this is one of government's only jobs, is to ensure I, a shifty baker, does not engage in illegal activities to generate a higher probability of winning the game, so to say. Government's job is to make sure I do not hire a hitman to break your hands so you can't mix dough. That is not the present construction of Canada. I do not need to say anything more to you than the word SNC Lavalin. To show you what I mean, perhaps I'll give an example anyway. Quote, "The government will also put in place a sales mandate to ensure at least 20% of new light-duty vehicles will be zero-emission vehicles by 2026, at least 60% by 2030, and 100% by 2035. To reduce emissions from medium and heavy-duty vehicles, the Government of Canada will aim to achieve 35% of total medium and heavy-duty vehicle sales being zero-emissions vehicles by 2030. Clearly, this is an example of crony capitalism in our country. The federal government of Canada preaches day after day that Canadians want to fight climate change. And in fact, we want to fight it so badly that the government has to force us to buy electric vehicles. I call this crony capitalism because the markets, which otherwise would not tolerate the sale of this excess of electric vehicles, are now forced to accommodate the influx of battery-powered cars. Of course, who benefits? Those who manufacture electric cars and trucks. And who suffers? Everyone else. So again, I say, crony capitalism is an economic disease in Canada. Undemocratic laws are the consequences we suffer, but Alberta independence, our independence, is the cure. What do you do with a corrupted referee? What do you do with an official demonstrably ruling unjustly in favor of a particular team? You throw them out. You fire them. And in the same way, the APP has proposed robust legislation that holds our elected officials to account, forcing them to report to their constituents and, if necessary, warrants their removal of any corrupted official from office. Yay. Yes, yay. That's How will we do this, though? How will we do this? The word recall is mentioned 10 times in our proposed policy and governance documents. This is just one of the ways. Quote, citizens will be free to directly express their will, including the right to recall elected representatives, initiate referenda, abrogate unsatisfactory laws, modify the Constitution, and vote on any spending bill that raises taxes. Nothing at present is holding the referee, government, accountable. Nothing is keeping them in line. And as such, you, me, we the people, are unfairly disadvantaged. We, who the government calls the little guys, are unfairly disadvantaged. But with the policies and governance the APP is proposing, handcuffing politicians, both to objective law and to their constituents, we have the potential to be an economic giant in the world once again. At present, we are watching unrealized gains on trade and economic production slip away because of crony capitalism. However, when we finally free ourselves from the corruption that plagues our country and province, and when we finally allow the markets to work unrestricted and unshackled from economic handcuffs and taxes that an oppressive government and parliament places upon us, then we're going to open up the markets, enable our industry to produce, enjoy economic freedom, and then finally, for the good of all, Alberta will be blessed to produce the wealth of nations. Thank you.